Film is a powerful medium, not only to entertain, but to educate and empower. In Fear of Rain, director Castille Landon does all three through the specific mental health lens of schizophrenia. In this film, a girl living with schizophrenia struggles with terrifying hallucinations as she begins to suspect her neighbor has kidnapped a child. The only person who believes her is Caleb, a boy who she doesn't even know exists. So, thank you so much, Castile, for taking this time and to share your story to speak with us about all of this. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I think let's just start right in with the fact that there was Benny and June in 93, A Beautiful Mind in 01, and a few other films before and after about schizophrenia. And now in 2021, you bring Fear of Rain to the screen. And why did you choose to bring this mental health condition to center stage?
Yeah, so I have always been really passionate about mental health advocacy and awareness, and it's been something that has been important just from a personal standpoint, but also a familial standpoint. So I knew I wanted to talk about mental illness in a way that destigmatized it and encouraged conversation. Um, and I chose schizophrenia in particular because it is the most stigmatized, probably, and the most misunderstood mental illness. And I feel like there are a lot of films that talk about, the violent side or the scary side of, or rather, I mean, we're dealing with the scary side too, but like with the person with the mental illness being the antagonist or being the thing that is to be feared. And on the other side of the spectrum, films show like A Beautiful Mind, which is a beautiful film, but there's a misnomer that mental illness is like this kind of genius thing. Like you're either a genius or a madman, right? And I wanted to tell a story about a regular person who has schizophrenia, because I think more often than not that is the case. Something like 3%, that's the last statistic I saw, of people have schizophrenia. And so I just think, I mean, me personally, I had no idea that that was the case going into this. So I think that's because it's stigmatized and because people are silenced. So that's why, all of those reasons.
Well, those are very good reasons. And I love the fact how you just said, you're either this extreme or that extreme. What if you're just a regular, average, everyday person?
Yeah, I think it makes it harder to relate to if you think that, like, oh, you were either a savant or, dangerous. Then it's like, well, I'm not either of those things. So this isn't really a story that it might be a good story, but it's like you don't watch A Beautiful Mind and come away with it from that being like, oh yeah, I really relate to John Nash. Like that's not what it's not the purpose of the film, but it's also just like it seems inaccessible. Whereas, like, I mean, I'm certainly not a math savant. Whereas Rain in this movie is very much like you or I.
Right. Yeah. So I love that the relatability to the character. So as a director, then, what was your biggest challenge in accurately portraying schizophrenia? I'm wondering, was it harder for you to just understand the disorder yourself, being such a complicated disorder, or was it more difficult to translate that disorder on screen?
Well, I think the translating it was what I really sunk my teeth into with it, because I was really drawn to the idea of portraying, of putting the audience in the mind of someone who has schizophrenia, which goes back to the relatability. It's all kind of, correlated. So that to me was really exciting. But I think the most challenging was deciding this is what Rain experiences, because I did a lot of research and a lot of fascinating stuff came out of that. And schizophrenia is it's a little hard to pin down. It's not there isn't like one set of symptoms and this is how you're diagnosed. It's like, well, this person experiences auditory hallucinations and a whole here this set of symptoms, and this person experiences a whole entire different set of symptoms, and this person sees, they might see spiders, and this person might see something completely different, some kind of boogeyman or whatever. So there was almost too much stuff to include, and not just in depicting what she was going through, but also kind of what on a larger scale I wanted to discuss with it in destigmatizing, because there are a lot of, medicine is always changing, and the way that people that doctors have dealt with schizophrenia isn't always agreed upon. Even now, the methods like restraints, for example, are a really controversial subject, and I wanted to talk about that. But in the interest of the film, it didn't. I mean, we do kind of touch on it a little bit in that scene where she's pinned down, but it didn't end up being kind of like this, thing that I was taking a stance on and like,
Right.
like talking a lot about in the film, because there were just so many other things to discuss.
Right. During this whole process, I mean, there was a lot, as you just mentioned, there was a lot that you gained from all the research that you did. Of everything, what was the most impactful thing about schizophrenia that you learned while making the film?
I think just how common it is. That was really shocking to me, because it magnifies in my mind, like seeing the numbers, seeing that doctors and lawyers and really intelligent, high functioning people also have been diagnosed with schizophrenia. I think there's just we don't realize how many people are dealing with it silently, and being confronted with that kind of magnified that for me, and made it, it's interesting when you create something that then when you're really far down the rabbit hole and you start having these like unexpected revelations, for lack of a less dramatic word. It's really exciting, to kind of have that. So I think that was it for me, while I was researching. But actually, there's also what really shocked me, and I just only realized it after the fact. I think as filmmakers, we really want to say something. We want to make a difference. We want to encourage people to have conversations, when you're making issues-based films, especially. And I've always thought, when I hear other people saying it, or even when I've said it, it sounds like, well, I mean, you're a filmmaker. Like, you're not really going to be able to do that. Like, you're not going to actually be able to make changes. And seeing the reactions of people as the film has come out and how much it has resonated with people has been really, really wonderful and sort of unexpected. Even though I wanted that, it was unexpected that it actually has happened, that it has created a bigger conversation, and a lot more people have seen it as an issues-based film as opposed to just a thriller or horror film.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can certainly speak as an audience member. Uh, wow, the insights I gained personally. And I felt like, oh, I know a thing or two about this and about that. But then when I watched this film, and you really did a fantastic job of humanizing the condition, right? It's not like this just here's a list of symptoms and here's the thing. But when you actually see a girl that could be her or anyone that you know, and you understand this sort of alternate reality that's not by their choice and that it's inescapable, and how you realize how terrifying something like that must be. um when I first sat down, I was like, oh, okay, it's a horror film, I'm gonna get ready for this, okay, I'll be prepared and I'm gonna get ready to do this kind of thing. I found myself in tears more than anything else, because I just, like, I could feel her and I could see her and what she was dealing with. And so the empathy that your film has the ability to derive is incredible. And it really made me start to want to go and to learn more, because I thought I had a good idea about what this is. I had no idea, quite
Yeah.
honestly. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was so incredible. Um, so to speak about this fact that it is a horror thriller film, um, do you feel there is a lot of congruence between the genre itself and the disorder?
Mm. Yeah, but I think it's different than what is often portrayed in the media, right? So like there are a lot of genre pictures, horror pictures, um, where someone with mental illness is portrayed, but it's usually they're the ones perpetrating crimes or violence or what have you. Um, for Rain, it's that her own mind, like her experience of the world, is where the horror is derived from. Um, her, like, not just her visions, which are themselves scary when she's seeing the bugs and that kind of thing, but also just the idea that your mind is playing tricks on you and you can't, and you're aware that it does this, but you also you can't trust it. You can't trust what you um, believe. And so I think that that is what's really scary. And then taking that even another step further, when you do believe something, other people don't believe you. And that's a really scary thing. And I think really relatable as a female. Um, just that idea that you go through life and people kind of um, marginalize you and don't take your word for what it is, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So that's a long way of saying yes, but I think that the horror is um, born out of her experience as opposed to something she is doing.
Well, and to just what you just said, I mean, how terrifying to not know if something was real or not. It's scary enough for her to see these things that are not there, or sometimes that are, and
Mm,
to not be able to tell the difference what was fact or fiction.
mhm,
I think people who do not suffer with schizophrenia, myself included, I mean, I have a hard time sometimes. Do I trust myself and what I'm feeling about one thing or another? But when it's something you're actually seeing or actually hearing, to not know that you can't even trust that,
yeah.
I can't imagine that kind of fear. So again, the film does such an excellent job of portraying that this other kind of a reality that people are trapped in. You know, your film is a powerful one with the potential to do so much more than entertain, although it's really entertaining. It's really well done. Mental health for too long has been stigmatized to pandemic proportions now. To increase awareness and improve empathy, what is it specifically that you hope your film will give to people, something that they will take away, and not only for themselves, but have the courage and interest to share with others?
Well, I think that's That is exactly what I hope that it does, that it speaks enough, that it resonates enough with people to encourage them to and interest them enough to use it as a jumping off point, um, both to do their own research, because I'm not a doctor, so I would encourage people to, you know, really look into the details for themselves, because there's so many interesting resources, even if it's YouTube or reading memoirs. I really hope that people, you know, seek greater knowledge, and that they start conversations about mental health in particular, whether it's schizophrenia specifically or more generally. Um, what did I say the other day with you? That stigma can't exist
Ah,
with silence, right?
yes, yes.
Like, you it only exists because of the silence. And so the more people feel free to talk about what their experiences are, even if they don't have, you know, a diagnosed something, but like every feeling is valid and worthy of discussing. And certainly if you're dealing with any sort of trauma or struggles,
Yeah.
the more you're able to speak your truth, the more you're able to be healed from that. So I hope that, you know, it encourages conversations in a lot of ways, kind of, you know, ideologically, but also individually, as far as individual experience.
For sure. Well, you know, how you were mentioning a little bit earlier about, you know, saying, oh, well, making this film and like, how, but, and you hope that it starts these things, you hope it does the things that you want it to do. And I think, again, I think of it as sort of like a gateway film, right? Like a gateway into like mental health, not only awareness, but like wanting to knownness. Like, I want to know more about this and making people a bit hungry for it. And yeah, so again, thank you so much. It's these kinds of stories that we realize, right, that change the world.
Mm.
That the world is changed through stories. Our realities are changed and shifted through stories. Um, you know, so speaking a bit broader here, as Hollywood stage continues to shift along with the times with regard to inclusivity, are we getting closer to where we need to be? I mean, certainly we have women and people of color who are being represented more. And today, International Women's Day, honored to be speaking with Ellen. Thank you. Um, however, when it comes to people with disabilities, who now are the largest minority group to date, while there are many roles that portray them, there are few roles where disabled actors actually play them. So, where do you see we're at here? Do you think that we're going to see this kind of a shift soon?
um, I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, I think that there is a lot of lip service that goes on with all of that, but I do think that with visible disabilities, there's far less tolerance than there ever has been previously. Um, I think that at this point, you know, and maybe it's also part of an acting style, but you can't have a character who does not have like Down syndrome, for instance, playing that, because it comes off as almost a parody, if it's just being acted. And you know, it is kind of a tough balance, because obviously for any film to get made, it has to have your, you know, A-list actor in it, and there are not many um, A-list actors with disabilities that we know of. I mean, maybe there are some that have things that they are not comfortable sharing. I don't know. Um, but and I think that that's even more likely with mental illness, right? Like that, it's not visible, so it's very, and like you can't really ask people when they come into audition or what have you. Um, so there is a fine line to tread. But I think, you know, I don't know how long ago, maybe 50 years ago, maybe even less, people might have said, well, yeah, but there's no bankable Black actors. So what do we do? So hopefully in the future, 10, 20 years from now, because it may take time, and hopefully it's sooner, but realistically, how long will it take to mint a star? Hopefully there will be more diverse, people in terms of mental and physical disabilities. So we don't want to promote ableism, right? Like that is, I think it's becoming less and less acceptable in Hollywood. But I guess we'll see.
We shall see. And what we shall see, what everyone should see, is Fear of Rain, because it is an incredible film, for so many reasons. And just can't thank you enough, Castille, for taking the time to share these insights about your film and to inspire people to gain insights of their own by having a look at what you've done here, because it's really something. So thank you
I
so
think
much.
it's like really important, right? Is like not just watching and that it is what it is, right? It's a movie, it's entertaining, but like to be able to walk away with it and have that curiosity to learn more, I think is always the goal, for me at least, when I'm making a film. So hopefully people's curiosities are piqued.
Right. Well, I mean, if action requires first awareness, your film does a fantastic job at making people aware
Mm.
of it through the lens of this girl. Again, you've made it so relatable. And so, yes, my hope is aligned with yours, that people will see it and then do something.
Yeah.
And thank you for inspiring so many. And we appreciate you and your time and your work and your story. And thanks for rocking it like you do. We're excited to see what you're up to next.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.